So as we go through the second chapter of Taanit, we've learned about the order of fasts, but we've also learned that they used to bring the teva, the aron, the ark, out into the square in the middle of the town, and they used to pray there. And the second Mishnah explained that they'd bring down before the ark. They'd appoint a shaliach tzibur, an old man, someone who was fluent in the prayers, someone who had children, someone whose house had no food in it. So his heart would be completely into the tefillah, and he'd recite 24 benedictions, so 18 from every day, and an additional 6. So there are an additional 6 brachot in the tefillah, in the Shemona Esrei, on these fast days. And the Mishnah will then go on. As we go through the second chapter, the Mishnah is now going to go on and explain what the content of these additional brachot are. And they're very unusual, actually. Only on Yom Kippur and, at Rosh Hashanah and Musaf, we have extra brachot. But I can't think of a time other than Rosh Hashanah at Musaf that we add brachot to the Shemona Esrei. So it's a very unusual time, but then this is a very unusual time. And we're talking about a fast. We're talking about a national crisis. So we're going to pull all the stops out. So in explaining what these six additional blessings are, the Mishnah begins. Of Eluhen, these are the 6 blessings. Zichronot v'shofarot. First, we've got zichronot and shofarot. These are the remembrances and the blowings. So these are indeed the 2 additional blessings that we have in the additional prayer on Rosh Hashanah. So we're going to take those. We're going to recite the remembrances and the and the shofar blowings on fast days. And then we're going to have some more. And the Mishnah is just now going to quote the first lines of a few psalms. I think the Mishnah expects the Shaliach Tzibur, the prayer leader, to recite the whole of the psalm. But, before printing, when all the manuscripts were copied out by hand, space was really valuable on a manuscript. So when we just mention the first line of a psalm, we assume that people know the rest. And of course, they knew a lot of this off by heart anyway. So now let's have another 4. Let's have 4 psalms for 4 more brachot. El Adonai b'tzarata li. This is Psalm 120. Esa enai el haharim. This is 121. We're reciting this now, at least in England, at the time that the hostages are still hostage. Mi makim karaticha Adonai. This is Psalm 130. We recite this on the 10 days of penitence. And again, many of us in England are reciting this one too on a daily basis. Tefillah la'ani ki yatof, a prayer of a poor man when he's faint. That's Psalm 102. So these are the 4 Tehillim, the 4 psalms that go with the 4 extra brachot, in addition to the zichronot and the shofarot. So 4 plus 2 makes 6. That's very important. Let's just hold in our minds. And Rabbi Yehuda has a different view. The halacha doesn't go according to Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yehuda Omer, lo hayat tzarich lomar zichronot v'shofarot. Rabbi Yehuda says he doesn't need to recite the zichronot and the shofarot. Ela omer tachtehem, but he should recite instead of them. And he's going to give some more quotations. Ra'av kiyev aretz, dever, etc. If there's a famine in the land, if there's pestilence, that's from 1 Kings. And then a quote from Jeremiah, Asher hayad var Adonai el Yirmiyahu al divrei habatzarot. The word of the Lord which came to Jeremiah concerning the droughts. Because, of course, we're in a drought now. And then ve'omer chotamotechem. And we can say the conclusions of the blessings. So this is Rabbi Yehuda, but let's just mention this in parentheses because the halacha doesn't go according to Rabbi Yehuda. And now we're going to dig more deeply into the 6. So we're going to explore, we're going to leave Rabbi Yehuda aside and we're going to explore the 6. And we'll begin with let's go step by step. Al harishona, on the first bracha. On the first one, he says, Ala Rishonahu Omer, on the first bracha, he says, this is the Shaliach Tzibur in front of the ark in the town square. Mish, and this will be we'll recognize this actually from Yom Kippur. We'll recognize this from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Mish ana et Avraham b'Har Moriah hu yaneh etchem v'yishma b'kol satchem hayom hazeh. He who answered Abraham on Mount Moriah, he will answer you and hear the voice of your cry today. And then the Shaliach concludes, Baruch atah Adonai goel Yisrael. Blessed is the Lord who redeems Israel. And you'll notice, by the way, that this first bracha, this is not additional to the tefillah, because the bracha of goel Yisrael is already in the tefillah. It's already in the 18 brachot. So the sense we're getting here is that this first one, Mish Anait Avraham B'Har Moriah, he who answered Abraham on Mount Moriah, this is inserted into Goel Yisrael. So it's inserted into an existing bracha. It's not additional. And now, after Goel Yisrael, now we're going to have 6 different brachot, which we haven't said before. Al hashniyahu omer, Mish anait avotechem al yam suf hu yaneh etchem v'yishma b'kol sa'atchem hayom hazeh. He who answered your fathers at the Sea of Reeds, at the Red Sea. It's all very reminiscent. It's all very close, actually, to where we are today. Hu yaneh etchem v'yishma b'kol sa'atchem hayom hazeh. He'll remember you, he'll answer you, and he'll hear the voice of your cry on this day. And the second bracha ends, Baruch atah Adonai zocher hanishkachot. Blessed are you, O Lord, who remembers things which are forgotten. So this is now the zichronot. Remember, we began by saying we're going to have zichronot, shofarot, and 4 more. So we've had the introductory Goel Yisrael. Now we've had the zichronot. So let's go on to shofarot. What do we know about shofar? Well, that's Joshua and Jericho, isn't it? So let's go on. Al hashlishit hu omer, on the third one, he says, Mish ana Yoshua bal Gilgal. He who answered Joshua in Gilgal. The people camped in Gilgal before they laid siege to the town of Jericho. Gilgal is right next door to Jericho. So this is just before Jericho. Mish ana Yehoshua b'Gilgal hu yaneh etchem v'yishma b'kol sa'atchem hayom hazeh. He who answered Joshua in Gilgal, he'll answer you and hear the voice of your cry on this day. Baruch atah Adonai shomea teruah. Blessed are you, Lord, who hears the teruah. These are the shofarot. Okay, so we've had the zichronot, we've had the shofarot. Now let's have the 4 additional ones. But of course, this is the first of the 4th. This is the first of the additional, the Psalms, and it's actually the 4th bracha we've said so far. I think it's the 4th bracha, exactly. We've had Goel Yisrael, Zichronot, Shofarot, and now we're going to have the 4th one from Psalms. And what was the verse from Psalms that we need to refer to? We've got El Adonai b'tzaratali. God, in my distress, I called to God and he answered me. So let's see whether we can find this in the bracha. Hang on, the screen is refreshed. The screen's just... So for the 4th, Ala Rivi'it, Hu Omer, Mish Ana et Shmuel Bamitzpah, Hu Yanetche V'Yishma B'Kol Sa'atchem B'Kol Sa'akatchem Hayom Hazeh. Baruch Ata Adonai Shomea Tzaka. For the 4th, he said, he who answered Samuel in Mitzpah. Now Samuel goes to Mitzpah and he prays and he sacrifices, and then the people defeat the Philistines. So there's a famous defeat of the Philistines when Samuel is in Mitzpah. So that seems to be the occurrence that we're talking about here. For the fifth, Ala Chamishit, what's the fifth psalm is Esa Einai El Haharim. I shall lift up my eyes unto the hills. So let's now go to the mountains. Al hachamishit omer mish anait ha Eliyahu bahara Carmel. He who answered Eliyahu on Mount Carmel. Hu yaneh etchem veishma b'kol sa'atchem hayom hazeh baruch ata Adonai shomea tefillah. He who answered Elijah on Mount Carmel, he'll answer you and hear the voice of your cry on this day. Blessed are you, our Lord, who hears prayer. Interesting. This is also, by the way, one of the existing Shemona Esrei. So I wonder whether it's an additional bracha. So I presume we say Shomea Tefillah at the end of the Shemona Esrei anyway. For the sixth one is Mi Ma'amakim Karaticha Adonai. From the depths I call to you. And again, we are saying this today, during the time that the hostages are still taken. So this is, it's very close today, but we need to go into the depths. From the depths I call to you. So let's hear the Mishnah. Al hashishitu omer misha ana Yonah mimei hadaga. For the sixth one, he said, he who answered Jonah in the belly of the fish. Jonah is right down in the depths of the sea, in the depths of the fish, in the middle of the sea. So that's why we have this Tehillah. Hu yaneh etchem ve'yishma b'kol sa'akatchem hayom hazeh. He'll answer you and hear the voice of your cry on this day. Baruch ata Adonai ha'onei be'et sarah. Blessed is God who answers in the time of trouble. That's the sixth. And then for the seventh is a Tehillah that mentions mercy on the land. So the seventh Tehillah is something to do with the land of Israel and God's mercy on the land. And I think that is why we mention David and Shlomo, because of course they're the kings in the land. They had to pray for the safety of the land all the time. So on the seventh, on the seventh, he says, Mish anai David vet Shlomo beno Yerushalayim. He who answered David and Shlomo, his son, in Jerusalem. Hu yaneh etchem ve'yishma b'kol sa'akatchem hayom hazeh baruch ata Adonai hamorachem ha'aretz. He who answered David and Shlomo, his son, in Jerusalem, he'll answer you and hear the voice of your cry on this day. Blessed are you, O Lord, who has mercy on the land. Hamorachem al haaretz. That's the line in Psalms. And in fact, I just brought it on the source sheet for you, actually. The Atatakum, it's not such a familiar psalm, this one. Atatakum terachem Tzion. You will have pity on Zion. I think that's the line in Psalm 102 that the bracha is referring to. And the psalm goes on, Ki 8 lechanana kiva moed, because it's time to be gracious to her. The appointed time has come, i.e., it's time to finish with this drought stuff. We need to stop it. We need to get on. We need to move on. Please please have mercy on Zion. So those are the seven brachot, of which 6 are extra, or 6 according to the Mishnah are extra. And the first one is just Goel Yisrael. Now, it wasn't always like this, and the Mishnah we're just going to conclude this discussion on Nusach, on the order of the prayers, with a little remembrance when perhaps there was a disagreement about what the proper order was. Ma'aseh bimei Rabbi Chalafta, uvimei Rabbi Hanania ben Teradion. It happened in the time of Rabbi Chalafta and Rabbi Hanania ben Teradion. Someone passed before the ark, i.e., someone was appointed as the prayer leader, and he completed the entire bracha, the entire benediction. Ve'anu acharav amen. So they said after him, amen, but they didn't stop. They said, amen, tiku hakohanim tiku. Amen, sound of tekiah, sound of tekiah, sound of tekiah, priests, sound of tekiah. So it sounds like at that point they blew. And now the Mishnah goes on with the end of the bracha. Mish anait Avraham Avinu Bahara Moria hu yanetchem v'yishma kol sakatchem hayom hazeh. So it sounds like they split the bracha into two. They say Amen, and then they sound the tekiah, and then they say the end of the bracha. And it seems to work similarly. The second bracha, and we haven't been given in the Mishnah the text of the beginning of the second bracha, but again, they seem to say the bracha, and then they say, Hariu v'nei Aaron, Hariu, sound of teruah, sons of Aaron, sound of teruah. And then the bracha concludes, Mish anait abotechem al Yam Suf, he who answered your fathers on Yam Suf, on the Sea of Reeds, Hu yanetchem v'yishma b'kol sakatchem hayom hazeh. They finish the bracha, he shall answer you and hear your voice of your cry on this day. So it sounds like they're doing this kind of responsively. They're reciting half the bracha, and then they're blowing, and then they're reciting the bracha. It is very much like Musaf on Rosh Hashanah. And when the matter came up before the sages heard about this. They said, Ve'amru, Lo hayu nahagim kain, eli b'shar mizrach. They only practiced in this way at the eastern gate. It sounds like this was a special way of doing it in the time of the temple. And there's a suggestion that as well as when they sounded Amen, they sounded they responded in the name of God. In the temple, they would respond with the name of God. They'd say, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed, when they said Amen. But they would actually say the name at that point. And then the priest would blow. That is a suggestion, but it's not. This is a historical relic, and we're honestly not quite sure how they did this at the Eastern Gate. But we do get a sense as to what, in general, kind of how they were behaving, and we can see echoes of our practice today in their practice in the time of the Mishnah.